What is the most common question that people ask me, John Milius? It's not about Conan, Apocalypse Now, or even Red Dawn. It's how did you come up with the octagonal design for the UFC battle arena? Funny story. A story that begins of all places at the nightclub, Studio 54. It was the summer of '75, the after party for the New York premiere of Jaws, Spielberg's shark-themed bar mitzvah into the big time. Tucked in a corner booth, Robert Shaw and I passed a bottle of Jameson back and forth, telling lies and cursing the English. From my vantage point, I could see Elliot Gould holding court with some hippie gash. Roy Scheider was still going on about the unbelievability of an island sheriff that was afraid of the water, and Oliver Reed was dancing by himself to a song that only he could hear. When right in the middle of one of Bobby's riveting tales, a coked-up Richard Dreyfuss stumbled over to our table and made himself comfortable. Now, I've never had a problem with Dick Dreyfuss, but when he's amped on blow, he tends to get mouthy. So for no better reason than to cut short his breathless regurgitation of the Meisner technique, I grabbed Dreyfuss by his poncho and slapped him so hard I broke my watch on his head. The force of the blow knocked him back into Truman Capote, spilling True's grain alcohol-laced chamomile tea down the front of his immaculate white suit. Tea stains don't come out of linen. Capote might have thrown underhand, but he was still a southern boy. Beneath that fey exterior, there was deep violence in him, the jerkwater rage of a region raised on grits. It was on. Capote was all over Dreyfuss with fluid combinations, setting up his world-famous haymaker. Paul Williams, a buddy of Dreyfuss, quickly stepped onto a bar stool, cold-cocking True, and before my eyes, the entire place erupted into the Roman Colosseum of yore. A human pool of mayhem on the octagonal dance floor of Studio 54. In an instant, Mercedes McCambridge had her high heels off and tied together, swinging them like a gaucho. George Kennedy picked up Hervé Villechaize and used him as a living bludgeon to beat Tony Randall into unconsciousness. James Caan slipped on an olive, skinned his knee, and cried on the ground till his full-time nurse Russell ran to his assistance. Before Linda Blair was even 1 foot out of the ladies' room, Lee Marvin had her in a chokehold. Jack Palance fought with the same subtlety as his acting. A whirling dervish of fists and tears, his flailing arms fanning the smell of his fear urine. David Carradine was so drunk he actually believed he knew Kung Fu. He girl-kicked wildly at John Cazale, a Hapkido black belt. It took 2 surgeries to remove Carradine's teeth from the roof of his mouth. Bette Davis pulled a knife, waving it wild-eyed and insane, challenging everyone around her. "Betty'll cut you." The bouncers futilely tried to subdue Jim Backus as he waded into the cast of Welcome Back, Kotter. 5 minutes later, he was leaning against the bar wearing a necklace of human ears. Candy Clark blew the doorman. Orson Welles had cornered a terrified waiter, threatening to dismember him for his tray of artichoke and goat cheese canapes. Bianca Jagger ripped off her top, jumped from the rafters, and swung down on one of the decorative plastic sharks, her foot connecting squarely with James Coco's larynx. I wanted to join the fun, but my violence-induced erection would have hindered my lateral movement. Paul Lynde beat hell out of Ernest Borgnine, his rejoinders reverberating through the room. "That's how you make a fruit cordial." Everyone stayed clear of Oliver Reed. What gave you pause wasn't the certainty that he would beat you senseless, so much as the likelihood that he would rape you after. I don't know how the fire started, but it spread quickly over all the spilled alcohol. And when a celebrity is cornered, it is then that they are truly at their most dangerous. The scramble for the fire exits looked like a Renaissance painting of hell, only covered in confetti, glitter, and balloons. The show was over. It was time to go. Realizing the night was still young, Bob and I hit the bars, until unconsciousness, inhibition, and memory left us to fend for ourselves. I woke up the next morning in Queens, with a tattoo, 3 cracked ribs, and Oliver Reed serving me breakfast in bed. True story.